We are going to be reacting to Midnight WoW is not what we expected, all new lore by Balula. Now, I've been following Midnight WoW for a while, and we know it's Chris Metzen's first full expansion that he wrote himself since effectively Warlords of Draenor. So I kind of want to see what Midnight WoW is and what Balula has managed to figure out. So without further ado, let's just dive right into it.
Today we got to talk about the direction of Warcraft's future lore. It has changed. It's going in an unexpected way, but honestly, I think it's a good way, and a lot of people in the PTR look excited. Dimensius is in fact the capstone villain of the War Within. And for many, the shocker is that we're actually teaming up with Xal'atath to fight him. And that means that the simple narrative mathematics we've done in the past has been a little thrown out the window. So, today...
Wait. We are teaming up with Xal'atath to fight Dimensius. But the Void, the old gods serve the Void, and Xal'atath is some weird old god amalgamation, so Xal'atath should be serving the Void Lords? Is Dimensius one of the Void gods? I'm not sure exactly, like, we don't know much about them, so this is interesting.
We've got Xal'atath, we've got the return of Azshara, the other side of Azeroth, and all the colossal lore that's about to catapult us into the Midnight expansion. Now, before we begin, you've got a golden opportunity to get yourself geared up with Hugh Green's Prime Day sale. Now, they're my personal go-to accessory brand. They're this video's sponsor, and they sent me a big old haul of goodies. And it's all deeply discounted too, up to 46% off with my links down below. So here's how I'm going to use it all. First, this is the 65-watt...
My man with the sponsored video.
And this little guy is great.
Gotta give it to my man Balula. He's always got a sponsorship rolling.
It's foldable.
Much respect to him. I'm gonna let him get his ad readout, you know, because I'm reacting to this video, mind you. It does look cool too, so it's a nice little thing here. I will say that looking at Midnight WoW's lore is making me more and more excited about Retail WoW's future. I don't know how to put it, but Retail WoW is actually going in a direction that's good. And I am truly, genuinely curious what the future of WoW looks like in Retail WoW, because it's not some small changes. It almost looks like Chris Metzen's Warlords of Draenor the War Within. Because it looks like they're just moving the direction away. They're going in whatever storyline arc they want to do, and the War Within is effectively leftover scrap that Chris Metzen just let be and moved on. So it's got me kind of interested, kind of excited about the future, because, hey, let's find out.
Xal'atath. We've got to talk about Xal'atath, and I'm actually going to do a full massive breakdown of her soon, but what's key to understand here is that she's no longer the Harbinger of Dimensius. She actually hasn't been for at least as long as we've known her, and more likely, she hasn't been the Harbinger of Dimensius since the fall of Koresh, which we now actually know happened hundreds of thousands of years ago. And that's funny because when you think about it, the only people who have been calling her Harbinger this whole expansion are basically the people that she has been taking advantage of, and us adventurers. She never outright said she was Harbinger, and yes, we did find the old staff, but that staff, you know, the Harbinger's one, well, that was a relic from a very long time ago, so it's safe.
Huh. I wouldn't have thought that. That's actually surprisingly interesting. If that just means that Xal'atath had her story rewritten to no longer be the Harbinger, but she's a good guy now? Are they turning her into like a anti-hero? Kind of seems the direction they're taking her right now.
To say she was the Harbinger of Dimensius, just that she's clearly no longer. But really, it has been in front of our eyes the whole time. We actually went back to when Ansarak killed her mother. That was a cinematic we saw before this expansion even launched. And in it, the old queen called her the Harbinger. But when she did, Ansarak screamed that her name was Xal'atath, a rejection of the Harbinger angle. And then when we fished in Dalaran's fountain during its destruction scenario, we got a rusty coin, one from Xal'atath, something that seemingly has been down there for years, and that had the phrase, "the soul of your world in the palm of my hand," inscribed upon it. Not our hand, as in me and my boss Dimensius, but my hand. Xal'atath's hand. So in me and my hand.
Yeah, in the palm of my hand.
But my hand. Xal'atath's hand. So it's pretty clear she's been working her own scheme, and that's what brought us to, of course, the ethereal betrayal in patch 11.1. Xal'atath wanted the Darkheart. She was absolutely planning and doing something with it. Illyria absolutely thwarted that plan, but then patch 11.1, the ethereal stole it from right underneath her. We of course knew something was off because we'd seen the Shadowguard and Xal'atath working together. So there was a question then, who went rogue? Who betrayed who? Were the ethereals doing something?
I'm gonna be real, like you look at the other cinematics and the other story arcs of Retail WoW and the War Within, and it's actually surprisingly really cool, really interesting. The War Within's no Wrath of the Lich King or the Burning Crusade or, you know, Warlords of Draenor in terms of iconic blood-pumping energy. But it's pretty well written for the most part. There are certain elements that were definitely not well written. But like the Mencius, the Undermine, so many locations were really well written and really, really interesting.
Untoward? No. It very much seems that Xal'atath is the one who betrayed the Ethereals, and that they originally had reclaimed the Darkheart for their master Dimensius, but that Xal'atath was always planning to in fact use it for her own purposes, meaning that when the Ethereals went and nabbed it in 11.1, that was them staying on mission, and of course leading to this patch. And that means that Xal'atath's betrayal goes way, way back to when Dimensius was defeated in Koresh's explosion. If she was the Harbinger of Dimensius at that point, which we believe she was, that would mean that whenever he was defeated and then fragmented, that she was then able to hide out and start working her own plan. Because it is becoming obvious that she is more cunning than Dimensius and will do anything for her freedom. And that's what brings us back to Midnight, because I think it's clear that she will make a more fitting villain than Dimensius ever could. So, we've got Xal'atath.
So before he goes on to the next part, if I'm now following correctly, all the jailer bullshit, etc. has not been mentioned again since. Effectively retconned to oblivion. Don't look back. We're not talking about it. Didn't happen. Anyways. Looking forward, whatever they wrote for Xal'atath has now changed. And the story is going in a different direction. But Xal'atath is, I guess, maybe trying to steal Azeroth's soul, the world soul, become a new Void Lord, to the same scale as the Mencius, because based on what I know about the Mencius and the lore about the Mencius, and correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, I guess, but he is effectively the Titan equivalent of the Void in his true form, but his true form cannot enter the existing universe because of how the fabric and the tear between, like, you know, light and dark is like that, that's split down the middle. So he can't ever cut into reality. The Dimensius we're fighting, even now, is just a shard of the true Dimensius who was behind the veil. Who was behind that, like, divide, so the Void Lords can't actually get into reality, because if they could get into reality, they would just consume everything. And old gods are little minions of the Void Lords, which Xal'atath is also an old god, right? So you get all that, you get that storytelling, get all that, you put it to the side. Xal'atath has now been the betrayer to Dimensius for hundreds of thousands of years. And she's been trying to get the Darkheart, I guess, to effectively become the new big bad. But she's been kind of doing it in this weird teasy manner of, champion, what are you going to do about it, champion? Are you going to come get it, champion? And she's been playing all these strings and fiddles and all these, like, webs of, and making it like she in comparison to the jailer, she's a much cleaner, better villain. And I don't know how to explain this, but she doesn't feel like a villain. She feels like a puppet master who's not exactly our enemy. And I kind of feel like they're going to literally tell us she was a good guy all along. Because she does follow those story beats of Arthas back during, you know, the Wrath of the Lich King, how he kept coming up, antagonizing us, and then, like, pimp slapping us and walking away. She's doing the same thing, but I don't think we're going to kill Xal'atath. I think Xal'atath becomes a good guy, and I think throughout the World Soul Saga, in the last Titan, she's going to activate Azeroth, awaken Azeroth herself, and then Azeroth's gonna be like, she's gonna be like, we couldn't stop the Void Lords, but she can because she's the last Titan. Dun, 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 and like, you know, play the music, whatever.
Betrayal. It's now time to lock in what else we know about the Midnight expansion. First, it was called the ultimate clash between Light and Void, and then Chris Metzen said the deciding fight between the two will happen at the Sunwell. And this does make a lot of sense, because the Sunwell isn't just a font of arcane energy. You see, after it was corrupted by Kael'thas, Velen then cleansed it with the light, and by cleansing it with the light, that actually opens it up to being corrupted by the void, because light and void are two sides of a coin, as we see in Naru with their whole flipping between their two different states. Now, of course, the Arathi, who we've met in the War Within, have been banging on all expansion about their holy flame and how it's part elemental, part light, part arcane, that Beledar is kind of the same. And of course, we're often watching Beledar go into its void state in real time. Now, the funny thing is the last time that Illyria visited the Sunwell, the void, like within her, couldn't help itself, and it actually erupted from her body. It tried to take the Sunwell. That's actually why Illyria was banished from Silvermoon. That's because all the way back during the Legion expansion, after Illyria assumed her void form, Xal'atath said that the caterpillar had became the butterfly. Basically, Zal has been running an angle on Illyria.
Is she going to possess Illyria? Because I know Xal'atath's currently possessing a body. That's not really what Xal'atath looks like. Like, it's the same thing like Cthulhu possessing a random guy, if memory serves correctly. So it's like Illyria, the perfect body for her, and she's been setting everything up so that Illyria can do the corruption she needs to become powerful enough by, like, let's say, absorbing the sun, or corrupt the Sunwell, absorb the Sunwell, become strong enough for Xal'atath to take over Illyria's body and become Ultima Xal'atath, like perfect cell, perfect Xal'atath. But the clash between the Void and the Light, we already knew that was going to happen, like Bella said, from BlizzCon back when you watched it. And Chris Metzen was talking about how every angle continues the story with a big finale, a big boom, which then leads to 14, 15, 16, 17, whatever onwards. And I feel like the direction they're taking the story and all the story beats is Xal'atath is not the villain. She's playing the villain to set up the universe for the actual villains, which is the Void Lords versus Azeroth, the last Titan. And I said that like 2 times so far, but that's my working theory right now.
Since that expansion, she's clearly been playing her, and it seems that game will end at the Sunwell, as was foreshadowed by the last time Illyria visited the Sunwell. What happens then? Well, if we go deeper into the story of the Sunwell, we discover interesting things. One of them being that to protect what little of its power remained after the Scourge ravaged the whole place, a red dragon named Coilstraz siphoned its energy into mortal form. And this mortal form was a girl called Anvina Taig. Yeah, the WoW comics were a little bit weird. Don't say her name in my local country of Northern Ireland. You might get a slap from people. Anyway, that energy is now back in the Sunwell, but it shows us that its power can actually be put or channeled into an individual. Now, I don't think they'll go and regurgitate a bunch of old comic lore, but it is worth thinking about, because that sort of thing could very much be Xal'atath's goal. We've already seen her essences being transferred.
I just want to talk about the comics real quick because I was thinking about it. They retconned the Madan comics. You know, the son of Garona and Medivh. Madan. And he was meant to be the next, like, Chris Metzen was setting Madan up to take over from Thrall. Like, Chris Metzen had his avatar Green Jesus, and then Chris Metzen's second MC, his self-insert, was Madan, and then Madan got retconned. But, you know, Anvina being like the Sunwell in human form and personification of mortality. I'm gonna be real, where the fuck is the story going?
Twice. Once, of course, into the blade, and then into her current elven body. So maybe the next step is into the Sunwell itself. Maybe from the Sunwell into the World Soul. Whatever happens, though, at that final climactic moment, I think we won't be fighting Dimensius. I think it will be Xal'atath. The question is in what form, because we could be fighting a Xal'atath who is truly ascendant with the total power of the Sunwell. But it may not only be her, because it's very clear she's not our only candidate villain. The other thing we know for sure is that the last Titan will come after the Midnight expansion. We were of course told by Iridikron how that would go down, because it's core to his plan, that the Harbinger will tear Azeroth from the Titan's grasp, and that they'll return to claim their prize, and basically that's when he will want to gank them. Now, the War Within is telling us that their return is not necessarily a good thing. You know, all of the weird sus Titan stuff we've seen. And that means that the Titans will do anything to reclaim Azeroth, including, of course, destroying us all. And that opens up the opportunity for another alliance of convenience with Xal'atath. But okay, that's what we know for sure. Now let me...
So Illidan's gonna come back, and he's gonna have absorbed Sargeras, and he is the jailer, and this time I am prepared. I know it's gonna be some convoluted random shit, but it's actually got me hyped. It sounds pretty fucking fun. Let's see what they do though.
Let me ask you a question. If this is, as Chris Metzen said, the ultimate clash between light and void, and we are seeing all of these void things, right? The void marshalling its forces with the Shadow Guard, Dimensius, the history of the old gods, well then there's an obvious question. Where's the light in all of this? Where are the Naru? Where are the Silver Hand?
Don't fucking say it. Yeah, Warlords of Draenor, Yrel and the Legion of Light. They're literally gonna bring back... Are we going back to Warlords of Draenor? Did Chris Metzen literally get his dream and we're going back to what? That's actually fucking funny. I didn't actually think about that. That's actually beautiful. We are going back to Warlords of Draenor, or the Warlords of Draenor is coming to us. You have the armies of light. You have like the sons of these orcish war chiefs as champions of the light. Oh, it's gonna be fucking hilarious.
What happened to Yrel and her weird light empire over an alternative Draenor? I think the answer is fairly simple. If you're looking for the light in all of that stuff, you might be looking too far away, because the answer is right in front of you, right in front of us, and it could be bringing us to the other side of Azeroth. Let me put it like this. Dragonfly had hinted at 2 future expansion locations. First, Khazalgar. Second, Avalorn. Those were...
Ooh, I remember these leaks. The leaks were all over the place at the time. Avalorn was the other side of Azeroth, where a dwarven expedition had gone there, and there were humans and empires and kingdoms over there. The pirates would go there and come back with insane treasure. Avalorn was the other side of Azeroth, and it had like these big kingdoms and things over there that would be really sick, which makes me think that the Arathi Empire is over there fighting other empires, and it's going to be a clash between the light empires and the void empires. I don't know.
The 2 places teased at the very, very beginning in those Titan notes that we found. Obviously, Khazalgar did become true. We're in it right now. But what about Avalorn? It's weird for Blizzard to tease a place name like that and never really go to it. That's certainly not their modern MO. Well, of course, we know that Midnight is the clash between light and void. Take a shot for every time I say that in this video. But in that very same BlizzCon, and now of course in the actual expansion, we see Hallowfall, and we find these people from the other side of the planet whose whole mission is to fight in something that they call Renalash, which they also say is the clash between light and void. Now, their empire is, we believe, on the other side of Azeroth, and their emperor, given visions by the light, sent the Arathi that we've met as an advanced force to secure Beledar. So, what next? I think it's fairly obvious. The final war, this big clash, and it all points to one of 2 things. In Midnight, the Arathi are going to show up to our side of the world with a massive fleet, likely ready to defend the Sunwell. They'll probably think it's Renalash and they have to come and do their part. But to be honest, so far, we are hearing that they're basically light extremists, so maybe there's a chance that they'll try to fight us for the Sunwell first. Now, the other option is that Renalash will bring us to the other side of Azeroth, and certainly when you listen to these Arathi NPCs and you hear what they're telling us about how it is back home, that's certainly not beyond belief. One example, General Steelstrike knew what an old god was, and that does point to Avalorn being the potential location of the all but confirmed, or at least heavily speculated upon, 5th old god.
Huh. I haven't heard the 5th old god in a long time. That was like I remember like early 2010s, 12s, like 14s, whatever. That I remember I was super into the WoW lore at the time, trying to figure out all the secrets and the mysteries. And you have the 5 old gods. And, you know, you have Ishag, which is dead. You have Cthulhu, which is alive but dead. You have the Zoth, which is alive but dead. Then you have the guy in Northrend whose name I forget. And that's the fourth one. And those are the only four we knew of, and there was the fifth mystery one. Everybody thought Xal'atath was the fifth mystery old god. But he's not the fifth mystery old god. Or she's not the fifth mystery old god, which might mean that this other side, and we've been talking about the other side of Azeroth for over a decade. I remember like the earliest I remembered it was 2011 or 12 where people were talking about it. So it's been over a decade of speculation about the other side of Azeroth. And I can't believe we're finally going to the other side of Azeroth. Like, holy shit. Yeah, Yogg-Saron, thank you. Who's also alive but dead. And so if the fifth old god is with the Arathi Empire, that would effectively make the story be the Empire of Light, overwhelming light, comes to defend Northern Lordaeron. Southern Lordaeron is then being defended, not Southern Lordaeron, Southern Eastern Kingdoms is then being defended with the Dark Portal opening and the Empire of Light marching through with Yril. You then have all the other old gods wake. So all the other old gods wake up. So you have Yogg-Saron in Northrend. You have, Cthulhu in Xal'atath. You have N'Zoth in the Seas. You have Yashag's fragments in Pandaria. Everybody wakes up, gets together, and all together, it's Void versus Light, with the Void trying to siege Quel'Thalas to get to the Sunwell. Also, Mally, thank you for the 6 months, brother. You're a real one. I appreciate you. Welcome to the Deep State yet again, brother. Your extra robe is in the mail. Thank you, big dog.
But then deeper than that, we know that the Arathi have also been fighting the Naga for centuries. And that brings us to the other big antagonist of Midnight, the other character with huge potential, Queen Azshara. Azshara's return has been foretold since the beginning of Dragonflight, and that's not me doing weird fluffy words, literally they're in-game prophecies. Back in patch 10.0.7...
Wait, okay, now, so why is Azshara back? I need to really read the lore. If I'm going to start doing a little bit of Midnight WoW content, I need to catch up on the lore, because I haven't really followed the lore properly since Dragonflight. What the fuck? Why is she back?
We found a Naga prophecy telling us that Azshara would be coming back, and that prophecy stated that a primal power, which we now believe is a Ridicron, wanted to end order. Of course, the Titans. We also learned that a hunger lost to the ages, which we now know as Galakrond, would be reclaimed, which of course we saw in Dragonflight, and that finally, a dark heart left broken awaits the taking. Well, the broken dark heart, after Illyria clinged it with the arrow, was just taken by that ethereal in 11.1 and is now in Koresh. And that means we're at the end of that prophecy. On the Siren Isle, the Naga we found told us, with their dying breath, that Azshara was about to return. So, yeah, I'm pretty confident that means Azshara will be back in Midnight. Remember, the last thing Azshara told us directly was that she was done dealing with intermediaries and heralds, and that she wanted to find the true throne of power. Then she yeeted herself into a void portal. We don't know where she went, but wherever it is, she probably did what she did best. Claimed a shitload of power. Now, with the Midnight expansion, she's returning to, as the Naga put it, rule over sea, sky, and earth, which actually gives us 3 options for Midnight's capstone villain: Azshara, the Arathi Empire, or Xal'atath herself.
I'm pretty sure what that means is, going into Midnight WoW, we're going to be fighting all 3. So you'll have 12.0 as one raid boss, 12.1 as one raid boss, 12.2 as another raid boss, and all factions will have a raid boss. And we're going to have to work with every faction together and against them. So we'll be working with the Arathi to fight Xal'atath, and with Xal'atath to fight the old gods, and with the old gods to fight the Arathi. And we're going to be like interchanging the villains we fight side by side with. It's going to be this multifaceted, multi-elemental conflict that crosses boundaries and is finished in the last Titan.
It's a lot of possibilities, so let's bring them all together. We're obviously going to the Sunwell for the final clash between Light and Void. Dimensius will be mostly out of the picture, and that will leave us with 3 solid options for who we're going to be fighting. First, the Arathis. If we're to believe Farron and what she says about her people, they basically are not as open to outsiders and those who they consider to be different. So we can't guarantee that them, even though they are agents of the light, that they will be on our side. Perhaps they won't be an end boss, but if we do end up in Avalorn, we may find ourselves on the wrong side of their politics. Second is Queen Azshara. This is perhaps the most obvious pick for an end boss. Blizzard have also said we're reuniting the lost elven tribes. Queen Azshara considers herself not just queen of the world, but in particular, the queen of all elves.
They did say that, didn't they? They did say that, like, Azshara viewed herself as being, she's Azshara, she's gonna be whatever, but the fact that the elves are gonna be unified, that means void elves, high elves, blood elves, night elves, Naga, technically, I guess, of elves, because Naga used to be elves. But then all the elves used to be trolls. So are we just going back to the super trolls from back in the day? I don't know what that's gonna look like, but it's gonna be interesting.
Obviously now that's the more fishy Naga variety, but yeah, it does mean all elves. And even though we had a brief alliance of convenience, I mean, come on, it's Queen Azshara. You can look at her every act through the history of this IP. She's not going to be our overall ally. And then, of course, most intriguing is Xal'atath. Her story with Illyria is barreling towards some sort of climax with the Sunwell, but we're yet to know what side either Illyria or Xal'atath will be on, or even what Locust Walker has actually got planned for all of this stuff. There is a chance that Xal'atath has been playing the deepest long game imaginable, that she could be trying to free our world soul from the Titans and thus give her free will or something. Alternatively, and maybe the most obvious, she could just slurp up the power of the Sunwell and use that as a connection to the world soul, maybe to do a body swap with Azeroth, making Xal'atath suddenly the most powerful being in existence, which, yeah, would be quite the way up from...
Yeah, that's probably her plan. I don't see... Okay, look. They could do the I am sacrificing the world to save the universe Xal'atath arc, where Xal'atath for the greater good, and she frees Azeroth as the last Titan. But being realistic, I'm going to put money on Xal'atath trying to slurp the shit out of Azeroth's power and just become the strongest being in existence.
Being trapped in a dagger by a bunch of bizarre octopus people, which is, you know, how she probably spent the last few 100,000 years. Now, bringing all of that together then, it's fairly clear that Midnight has more moving parts than we ever thought. And with patch 11.2 just around the corner, I think we're soon to find out a lot more of who our real villains will be. And by the way, there is something important to say. Now, I'm going to expand upon this in a new video like in 2 days' time, but you should know it. Basically, whenever Chris Metzen returned to Blizzard, they were a fair bit into production of War Within. A lot of things were basically locked in at that period. And it very much seems that the World Soul Saga's overall influence is something that mostly impacts how they bent the War Within that they had at that point of time, and then how they developed some things like War Within patches, especially, of course, what we're seeing now with Koresh. I think that with that context, the idea of them rushing through the War Within so they can actually set up the, you know, big Midnight and Last Titan stuff makes a lot of sense. I think a lot of that is reflected in the lore that we've just discussed in this video. And if you want to understand more of this from the actual game design perspective, you've got to watch this video next, because Ian, the game director, basically owned up to loads of the things the team were doing wrong on a systemic level for years.
Yeah. I'm gonna mute this and let the video finish. Another thank you, shout out to Balila, amazing video. Been watching this man for 10 years. Only been doing content for a year, but hey, really good content creator. If you haven't subscribed to me, it'll be a description down in the comment, there'll be a link to his video in the description down below. Go follow and subscribe to him. Great creator. But like, long story short, I've been saying this for a while, that Midnight WoW as an experience is the first like story beat where they go into the grander scheme of things. The War Within was 70% done when Chris Metzen came back. And we can see how they changed and tweaked a bunch of things. And I'm pretty sure a lot of the story beats, story elements, context clues, characters, like experiences, everything in general is going to get rounded up together, tweaked up, and be delivered to us in a much better fashion in Midnight WoW and The Last Titan, and I'm super excited to see that. So thank you for watching. If you like this reaction, like and subscribe. If you hated it, understandable. Dislike and subscribe and become a dedicated hater. We don't half-ass hate on this channel. We full-ass it. Thank you all for watching. I've been hard out.